Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today on our webinar on how to create a fundraising project on the Good Exchange. So just quickly to introduce who we've got here, just two of us today. You've got me, Misha, who you've probably spoken to on the phone about how to work through your project and register and manage your project. And the same with Roisin, you'll have spoken to her at some point too. We both work in the customer service section, so we will always help you with how to use the Good Exchange and how to get the most out of it. So the agenda today will be fairly brief. What we're going to do is go through a little demo with you on a dashboard on the Good Exchange and how to get started setting up a project. So we're going to be looking at working through each section of the project. So the description, the type, the benefits, the project costs, the supporting documents, the organisation financials, and then finally how to submit your project at the end. So we'll go through that little demo with you step by step. So getting started, when you're looking to set up your project, you'll have already registered with us. All your registration details will be stored in the organisation tab on the dashboard. So the next step is to move into draft applications and start setting up your project. So it's My Dashboard, Draft Applications, and Create Application. Now, when you first click that button, Create Application, a little pop-up will display. And on the pop-up, it will give you a bit of information on the details that you'll need when you're filling out the project. So just have a little read of that and then click Accept. But for the purpose of this video, we've skipped that portion and we've set up an example project that we can have a look through now. Okay, so the list on the left here, if we click into the project, when you first start setting it up, you'll see there's a list, and this is the various sections of the application. Now, you'll be working through these one by one. Now, some of the questions during the project are mandatory, and therefore if you miss a mandatory question, the form won't allow you to move on. So do make sure you answer every question available there. So as you move through the project, you're clicking Save and Continue to move through each section. And this ensures that your work is saved, and it will also allow you to log out and return to the project later if you wish to. So I'm just quickly going to jump back to the draft application section on the dashboard, because I want to show you if you do leave your application and you want to return to it later to finish it, you always click on the title to do that. Now, people do get confused between this sometimes. When you're changing anything fundamental in your project, so you're going back into it to finish the draft and submit it to us, when you're doing that, it's always click on the title. What people often do is click on Edit Public Page. That button there is really to increase the visual appeal of your project. That's where you add images and videos and comments. So that's something separate, and that's better worked on when the project's live. So focus on clicking on the title to come back in and continue working on your drafts. Okay, so starting at the beginning, we've just started to set up our project, and the first section is the description section. So in here, you just simply enter a short title for your project. Now, if your project is for something like running costs or yearly costs, it can be useful to add a date onto the title like we've done here. And this will help us and potential funders to distinguish between projects should you add similar ones in later years. So a little date on there is always very helpful. The next piece here is to enter a short description of the project. Now, it does say to enter a detailed description, but once the project is live, this will display on the live page where people can come in and donate. So it's best to keep this description clear and concise, not too long, 2 or 3 paragraphs maximum, and do add keywords into your description too that are relevant to your project, because once it's live, this will help your project to be found online generally when people are using online search engines. So if your project, for example, is about mental health and disability, try and include those words in your description here. So that's the description section. And then to move on, we're clicking Save and Continue to come through to the next bit. Okay, so the next section is type of project. What type is your project? Now, on the Good Exchange, you can fundraise for a capital project or a revenue one or both. Now, in this example, you can see that we've selected both from the drop-down menu. Now, example projects of capital types are new builds, refurbishment, equipment, purchasing a new vehicle, things like that. But the system will provide you with a full list to select from that you can see under the capital projects section here. Now, revenue, which is the bit that comes first here, revenue projects can be core projects or non-core. Now, examples of revenue core projects are things like salaries, rent, utilities, training. These are things that are central to the running of your organisation, your core costs. Examples of revenue non-core projects are things like events, one-off projects, outreach programs, clubs, something that's not central to what you do as an organisation, but it's a little bit of an extra thing that you're looking to do. Again, the system will give you a list to select from, so you can select the relevant one here. So once you finish the type of project section, scroll down to the bottom again, same as before, and select Save and Continue to come through to the next section. Okay, so the third section in the project is the benefits section. Now, in this area here, you'll be asked for a little bit more information about your project, things including the location, the charitable category, the people that you're looking to benefit by running this project, and the impact that you will have. So this is an opportunity for you to give further information, so a few more kind of open-ended questions. And this can be a very interesting section for funders. And in this section, we do have a number of matching questions that helps you to match up with them. So important to get this right if you can. Now, I want you to go through in here. There's 3 particular questions that people struggle with sometimes. And those are the top 3 here. So you can see we've got the charitable category question, the beneficiaries, where do they reside, and where will the project actually take place. So I'm going to show you how to actually answer one of these now to show you what people normally struggle with and how you can get past that. So if we look at this question here in particular, where will the project take place? Let's focus on that one. So in answering these 3 questions, we click the Add or Remove button to make our selection. So you can see here, we've selected Newbury Town. Now, where will the project take place? It's important to get a little bit more specific because it's going to mainly take place in a certain area, unless you're doing something like an outreach program where you're traveling around schools in different areas, then it would be a bit more of a wider reach. Mostly if you're doing something like a refurbishment, a build, you're based in a central office and it's your running costs you're fundraising for, then that's probably going to be in a specific town or village. But you can see here that you've got 2 options. You can select from authorities and wards or places, towns and villages to get a little bit more specific. So if I take our selection away, I want to find Newbury Town. I'm going to use places, towns and villages because I know it's a town and I know it's exactly where my project will be. And then I'm going to look for it by typing it into the box here. Now you can see here the Newbury Town I want to select is under West Berkshire. That's the one that I want. So I'm going to click on it and it's going to move to the right-hand side, and that's telling me that I've selected it. So you can see there, it's selected there. Now, what you can also see here is that there's no way to actually confirm my selection. So what do I do next? Well, the reason it's not showing is because there's normally an OK button at the bottom here. And it's actually interestingly doing this to us now. Why is it not showing? That's because the computer is zoomed in a little bit too much. If you zoom out on your browser, your internet browser, whether that be Firefox or Chrome or Safari, etc., zoom out, the OK button will display, click on it, and then you will see that your place area that you've selected is then confirmed in this portion here. Now, if that doesn't work, you can always contact us to let us know, but normally when that goes wrong, it is due to the zoom on the browser. Okay, so that's the benefits section. And again, as before, scrolling to the bottom and clicking Save and Continue to move on to the next bit, which is project costs. And Roisin's going to take over and go through that with you now.
Okay, yeah. So this is a section where you list each individual cost of your project. So as you can see here, we've listed each item and put the amount that item will cost. So to add another item, just enter the name of the item and then add in the value and then click Add. So the next part of this section is to provide any details of any funds that you've already raised towards the project. Please note that these should be funds that you already have in place. If you've not raised any funds, then you can enter 0. As you can see here, we have raised funds for this project. So we've entered in how the funds were raised, and the amount. Once your project is live on the platform, the system will also calculate your fundraising target as your total cost of project minus any funds you have raised. If you complete the remaining questions in this section, which relate to any external applications you've made and how your project will be managed. So as you can see here, we've answered a question in regards to any resources that we would be applying. And then there's also a section here to describe any applications. Once you've answered the remaining questions in this section, then click Save and Continue. Okay, so the next section here then is supporting documents. In this section, you must upload direct documentary evidence of each of the costs you've previously listed. Direct evidence can, for example, be quotes, invoices, email confirmations, or online catalogue screenshots. To further evidence your costs, you can upload a budgetary sheet to show how you've calculated each specific figure. If you get confused or if you're unsure of any evidence that you would like to put in this section, then we're more than happy for you to get in contact with us. But generally, in regards to what I've just listed, these types of evidence should suffice for your project. Please ensure that the costs you previously listed exactly match those as shown in your evidence without rounding up and down. Sometimes this happens quite a lot when we're looking at applicants, and we need to be able to cross-reference your supporting documents to actually match the project costs. And funders will also look into the supporting documents as well. So it's really important that when you're uploading evidence that it's really clear in terms of what evidence relates to what costs. Once you finish with this section, then please scroll down and then click Continue. Okay, so organisation financial details. This section gives you the opportunity to update the registration details of your organisation. So if these are already up to date, then just scroll down and click Continue to move on. Okay, so the last section provides a summary of all the details you've added so far. If these are already up to date, and scroll down and click Continue. If you finish with this section, you can scroll down and view all of the details of your project and then click Submit Application. Now, if you're not ready to submit, you'd like perhaps maybe someone else to have a look at it, or you're not quite ready, then you can of course click Save for Later and then get back into the application by clicking on the project title, as Misha previously showed you. So I'm actually not going to click Submit Application, and I'm just going to go back to my dashboard and then approve projects. So once you've clicked submit, the Good Exchange team will review your project. So if we require any further information, you'll be contacted. And once your project is approved, you'll receive confirmation email and your project will move into the Approved Projects tab, which you can see here. It will be given a default fundraising deadline of 1 year on the platform, again, as you can see here. And once your project is approved, you can either, as Misha previously explained, click on the project title to view and manage fundamental details of your project, such as funding offers, requesting to edit, closing the project, or completing end of project evaluation reports. Click on Edit Public Page to see what your project looks like to the public and increase the appeal by adding images, videos, events, project updates, and comments to donors. You can also click Successful to view and close your fully funded projects. Okay, so that concludes the end of the webinar. And now we'll be taking any questions that we have. So I can see that we've got one here. So let's have a little look what this says. Okay, so what happens if you're not based in one location and want to fundraise for running costs?
I see, that's okay. That's no problem. So you've got the two questions in the benefits section. Where will your project take place and where will your beneficiaries reside? You can still, for where will it take place, put the multiple areas, the wider areas. If it's running costs and you cover all of the Southeast, then select Southeast. If you cover 3 specific authorities and wards, you can select them. It's open to adding whatever you want to in there. It's only important to get specific if you really are based just in one place or your beneficiaries are based just in one place. So yeah, but you can have either option there. You can select your wider areas.
The next question, someone just asking about our YouTube channel. So you can find our YouTube channel is actually live. So if you just go to the Good Exchange, you can view all of our current videos.
Okay, and someone's just asking again about the regions. So this person has 24 support groups throughout various regions. So if you're fundraising for one of those support groups, then you would select that specific region. If you're fundraising for running costs or all of the support groups, then select all the regions as where the project project will take place and where the beneficiaries reside. So that's no problem at all. You can definitely go ahead and do that. Okay, and someone else is asking, is there any way we can see who has shortlisted the project? So which funders are shortlisting you? Well, what we can do, we can actually jump to that. Let's have a quick look. So here you'll see, this is our project when it's in the Approved Projects tab, when it's live. And there's a little box here that shows the number of funding schemes that your project's matching with, the number of shortlists it's been added to by a funder, and the number of offers you've received. Now, the matches box will tell you, okay, this is how many you're matching with and how many have shortlisted, but it won't tell you who those funders are. Now, this was requested by funders. When we set up the platform, they wanted anonymity with that until the point they make an offer to you, because that's when they see the relationship starting between you. So you won't see who they are, unfortunately, but you do have this little box as a guideline. And if you do receive an offer, you'll be notified by email anyway. The person who had asked about the 24 different support groups across the region. Now, what you can do, you can add one project for all of them and add the cost for each one in the project cost section. Or what you could do instead is add a separate project for each one. I know that's quite a lot, but that is an option. And then all of the running costs for that particular support group. So because you've got so many, you'd probably be better just setting up one project to cover all of them. Put in your costs that are forecasted for that year. The cost will change throughout the year, that's completely normal. But what to do is add that budgetary document that shows how you've calculated them at that point in time. If you find that your costs go up or down through the year, you can adjust your project, you can request to edit it, so that's not a problem. And at the end, you'll be asked to complete reports for the funders that have supported you, and very often your costs have gone up or down, so that's completely normal. And the main thing is to reflect your estimated costs and how you've estimated those in a budgetary document. Someone else is asking, how long does it take to hear from shortlisted funders or funders who've shortlisted you? It completely depends on the funder. So on the platform, the 29 or 30 registered funders all have shortlisting dates, deadlines all the way through the year at different times of the year. Some are twice, some 3 times, some are sometimes all the way through. So it will completely depend on the funder. So what we are doing is connecting your project up with them, and then they'll make the decision whether to shortlist and when to take that to a funding offer if they do. So they all have their very own specific dates for their specific schemes. And so that unfortunately will lie with them. We wouldn't be able to answer that for you. But the main thing we do is give you at least that guideline in the little box to show you how many are actually shortlisting.
Okay, so the next question is, can one charity have more than one project on the Good Exchange? The answer is yes. We have no limit in terms of how many projects you can have. You can, for example, have one for core cost and an outreach program. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. What I would suggest is perhaps maybe just concentrating on one, getting that up and running, rather than just starting multiple at one time, and you get yourself confused in a mix with everything else. But yeah, we have absolutely no problem with that. And another thing that I will say in regards to when you're creating a project is make sure that you're actually going to put the full cost of that project. So funders actually want to see, if a project's going to cost you £20,000, make sure you put that it is going to cost you £20,000 rather than seeing, we can see a funder that's got a scheme and they're offering £5,000 grants. The whole point of the Good Exchange is to connect you with multiple funders that can fully fund that project. So do make sure that you put the full cost of what your project's actually going to cost you to run.
Okay, and someone's saying if you don't receive any offers, what happens then? Well, we make sure that your project is on for at least a year to cover all possible funder schemes and their deadlines. If your project's an event, it will close off a couple of months after the event. Now, at the date where the project is about to close, we contact you first. It doesn't just come off the platform completely. We contact you to find out if you're still fundraising. Now, it will be open to all those funders throughout the year, but as I say, it depends on the funders whether they would like to support you or not. But the other side of the platform is the crowdfunding side. And that's really important to use that as well. So when your project is live, you'll have a live project page where people can come in and donate as well. So if funders can see that you're drawing donations to your projects and they're regularly coming in, they can see that you're actively fundraising, and this can also encourage them to support. So very important to be actively fundraising at the same time as you're waiting for funders, to really use that side of the platform as well. And as Roisin was saying, on our YouTube channel, we've got lots and lots of different tools to help you with fundraising, particularly via social media, which can be extremely helpful for bringing in donations to your project. So definitely worth having a look at them and subscribing to the channel.
I think it's also worth noting that the Good Exchange operates on a no-win, no-fee basis. So unless you were to receive any funds through the platform, you will actually not be charged any fees. So we don't have a subscription model, anything like that. So yeah, I think that's just important for you guys to know as well.
Someone just quickly asked before we go, what are the subscription fees and commitments? There's no subscription fee. We don't have a subscription model in the Good Exchange. So it's free to register, free to add your project. And what we have is a platform service fee that's 5% plus VAT. So any funds coming through to you will be sent out to your bank account on a monthly basis. But what we're now putting in place is a direct debit for the platform service fee. Now that fee, the 5% plus VAT, will only be on any funds you receive through the Good Exchange. So any donations, grants or match funding coming through us. So things like gift aid, and anything you add is externally raised from the Good Exchange, so you can add it to your target. There's no fee on that because it's not essentially coming through us. Gift aid is, we can claim that for you, but we don't charge a fee on that. So simply any donations, grants and match funding coming through the platform. And it's worth having a look at our fees and charges page. If you go to the Good Exchange website, scroll to the very bottom and you'll see that a link to that page there, and do have a read through. And that's something that you can share with your colleagues and trustees as well. Okay, and someone else is asking, are there any pitfalls with crowdfunding? Essentially, it's really about marketing and getting the word out there. That's your main thing. What you can be doing is adding a link to your project page on your website if you have one. You can add a link to your email signatures. You can put it onto newsletters. And really, really importantly, if you've got it, social media. Now, we've added webinars on how to start up social media channels from scratch and how to then use them for fundraising, and that's extremely useful if you've not started at all. And there's lots of tools there for you, but that's the main thing, is getting the word out there. It can be tricky for people, but what we find is that social media is by far the best method of getting the word out about your projects and your fundraising.
Okay, so someone's just asked here, I can't find the crowdfunding part of the site. So if you can't find that, your project hasn't gone live, but I can actually just show you quickly an example of a project. So if you go to the top right hand corner and you can see the search icon, and I'll go and find a project. So once your project goes live on the Good Exchange, it will appear here. So I'm just going to click on an example. So this is the part where Misha was talking about in terms of your public page. So when you go in to edit your public page, this is what the public and donors who are looking at your project will actually see. So if you can see, I click on here, and then there's the option to donate now. So this is the crowdfunding aspect. So once your project goes live on the Good Exchange, we will send you a link to this page, and then you can put that on social media, you can put it in emails, and then this is the page that they would be taken to, and then this gives them the option to donate.
So on this page here that Roisin was showing you, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a section that says latest updates. And this section here will show all of the donations coming into the project, any funding offers received. This is more of a public view essentially, but it's good for you to have a look at so you can see what's coming in. So your project page is the crowdfunding, but it's also visible and available for matching with funders separately from that as well. And someone else asking about supporting documents. Now, you do always have to have supporting documents for your projects. Yes, you need to evidence your costs. Now, where you have something like a capital build or equipment, etc., we'd be looking for the quote that you have. How have you got those costs? We'd be looking for screenshots of the items you're purchasing from maybe online. If your project running costs, then obviously that can be trickier to get the evidence for. So in that respect, we'd be looking for a budgetary spreadsheet that shows how you've calculated each of your costs. So for example, you might have running costs and you might say, okay, it's these 4 items. It's the same as we had last year, but we've added 10% on. So you can show that in a budgetary document to make it nice and clear. And it's important that funders are really able to see how you've calculated your specific costs and to make them as transparent as possible. The main thing is adding on the project, because once it goes live, it automatically matches with the relevant funders. It takes the answers to your questions in the project and it matches it up with the eligibility criteria of each of the funders. And then each of the funders can look at the projects they're matching with. So really what happens is funders are only seeing projects that they want to see, but you're reaching funders who are likely to support you. So that matching piece there is, we call it a little bit like a dating site for the charitable sector. It matches you up with them automatically.
Okay, that looks like it's the end of the questions. So yeah, if you have any more, then you can just drop us an email at support@thegoodexchange.
For more videos like this, please visit our help and support page on the Good Exchange, or subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up to date with all our how-to videos and other videos and tools to help with your fundraising.